questions?
We have a fireplace in the house, so.
Kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Did
It's
you guys
6
have
o'clock.
some weight plans?
I'd call the,
Oh, yeah, we're trying to have a conversation.
sorry, meeting to order. First we'll start off with pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trevor, will you do the roll call, please?
Christina Eshelman,
Here.
Kurt Flickner,
Here.
I'm here. David Kaufman, Don Lehman,
Here.
John Payne,
Here.
Brian Topping,
Here.
Jessica McFarland, Gretchen Thomas,
Here.
and Scott Croner. Here.
Next item, special board recognition. Seeing none, we'll move on to recognition of visitors and public input.
Randy, Michael, Matt, you guys sign in?
Sign, want to share, what's on?
None? All right.
Yes, we'll move on to amendments to the agenda, which are in front of you. Would you like to have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we accept the amendments to the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion from Christina, a second from John. Any questions or discussions on the additional items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Next, we have a consent items that consist of the regular board meeting minutes, claims, personal items, professional leave, and grants and donations.
Make a motion to approve the additional consent items.
Second. And a motion from Trevor, a second from Brian. Any questions on, or discussion on those? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Next, we're moving on to approving overnight, out-of-state and overnight trips for the following listed. What's that? Oh, oops, I jumped past one, my bad. First of all, we got the approving the proposal for the staff raffle personal day. This is what the WA scholarship.
In your board packet, you have a copy of the memo. Was approached by Mr. Rand, and Mr. Rand is here, so actually, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Rand, and maybe you can explain a little bit more about what you're looking to accomplish.
Okay. The Wa-Nee Education Association is looking to raffle off a personal day for certified and classified staff to raise funds for our WEA scholarship. And so that is that.
So Mr. Rand approached us, said, hey, we'd like to raise some money for our kids. The graduating seniors this year, they graciously give out a donation every year on behalf of a scholarship for a graduating senior. Is it a student who's going into education? Is that
Yes.
traditionally what it is? And so approached us, said, hey, to help raise some funds for it, would be mine donating a day. Had some conversations with Julie Slavin, not the Indiana School Board Association, that said it would be permissible, but it would obviously require board permission before we do that. So we're approaching you with that. We would then go to an auction, or not an auction, I'm sorry, a raffle. And all the proceeds would go towards the scholarship for one of the graduating seniors. So I would recommend approval as presented.
Is it open to all employees?
Certified and classified staff.
Okay.
Yes.
Union or non-union.
Yeah.
And how much do they pay?
So it's one chance for $5 or 5 for 20.
What's that?
I make a motion to accept the proposal.
Next time.
Good job, Don.
Second.
Motion from Don, a second from John. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll move on to considering the out-of-state overnight trips for the following listed in our packet.
And we recommend approval as presented. And in addition to it, if we could add, the board's okay, we did have some divers that made the state as well. We know we've got that blanket policy, but we always try to add them as well. That came in, I think, at 4 o'clock this afternoon happened over the weekend. So we'd like to have your approval as well to send our backers. There's 3 students that will be going and 1 coach that will be going with them, so we need our board policy on that.
Make a motion to approve the out-of-state and overnight trips, including Northwood Swim and Dive.
Second.
A motion from John, a second from Trevor. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Next, we have our discussion information. I learned. Freshman, you're up.
I would stop sharing, Lisa, and then, so it's at the top, that red that's kind of off the screen yet. And then go share again. But here, you'll want to go back to Teams. No, go back, yeah. And then see the share up there, to the right. Down, see the microphone?
Oh,
There you go.
that's something great.
And then go down to Windows, 3,
Yeah.
up, Windows.
Here?
Yep. And then click on that. Thank you.
Good job. I was here sitting, that's a lot of pressure.
All right, so we wanted to share some iRead updates with you guys, and we thought, rather than another boring iRead update, we'd share, are you smarter than a 4th grader? I didn't pick the grade level, Dr. Croner did, because he could only go up to 3rd grade, and so he thought challenging with 4th grade awesome. So that's where we landed.
It's not wrong.
Some updates for you for iLearn for 2026. This year, we have 3 checkpoints that we're giving. We did a pilot last year with them too, but this year across the state, we do 3 checkpoints. So we do a beginning, a middle, and an end of the year. And then we do a summative at the end of the year. This summative is the actual iLearn test. It's at the end of the year, and it's a shorter version. That's the only part that actually counts for our grade, and if the kid passes or doesn't pass. The checkpoints are just for teacher instruction to see if they're on track to pass or not. There's a new scoring that they're going to have to do, a new scale score, because it is a shorter summative assessment this year, so they're going to have to level set that. So those results won't come out as fast as they normally do. So they're going to do that in July. We won't get those results back then until the fall, or normally we get them back within a couple weeks usually. And then there will be a new accountability model set for us this year too. We're not sure yet what that will look like, and so we haven't presented it to you guys because it hasn't been approved yet by the state, and so they're still working through that, but it will be a letter grade again for schools, and they're still trying to iron out what that might be. So, here we go. The first category is English, and so the state releases some items for teachers and students each year. I'm going to go through just a couple of samples before I give you a couple questions here. So just to give you an example of what students do, the sample released items gives you an idea of what students, the test type of questions that they are presented with, the rigor of questions that they're presented with, things like that, the type of tasks that students have to do, how they have to engage with the computer, all of those types of things. So here's an example where students have one passage that they have to read over here. They have to scroll down, and then they have a second passage to read about Henry Ford, and then they come over here and they have to answer what common idea do both passages share, and then they have to go through each of those to figure out which one. So they'll have to kind of go back and forth between the 2 passages and figure out which one that might be. Continuing on, reading it just from passage 2, they have to pay attention that it's asking for passage 2, not sentence 2, because if you go back and look, they do have the lines or paragraphs here numbered, and so if they're not careful, they might look at the wrong area. And so just things like that that kind of can mess students up sometimes, and it has nothing to do with what they're actually learning or what they know about the content. So those are all things that we take a look at. Here's one that I would have put in front of you, so you have this in front of you in case it's hard to see up here. So if you just take a minute or two and take a look at that passage, that story that students would read. Okay, so the first question here, read the sentence from the story, and what does swept away mean in the sentence? And you have 4 answer choices. Can you get the right answer? I don't want you to get it wrong. Live TV. So the students would have to know that swept away meant defeated, and they would have to make some inferences there. They would have to infer that that's what happened. And if they didn't read through the whole thing, if they were kind of jumping around, they wouldn't be able to infer that. They would be like, well, swept away, like, okay, yeah. Sweep means to clean, like cleaned up, and then boom, they're done, they go on to the next thing. And so really making sure that they're reading through all of the choices, making sure that they are making those inferences. You can think like, okay, yeah, it could mean forgotten, I swept away that thought. Like, all of those could be right, but you have to look at that exact passage and you have to make that inference. Then number 5, here they have to select 2 sentences that show how the old woman feels about the soup she makes. And so they have paragraphs 3, 4, and 5 there, and then they have to actually highlight the sentences that show how she feels about. So she, that might be gelatinous here. So, you know, it's only a few bean curd bits and wild vegetables. I live in a poor way. But again, going through that, and it's not right there, they have to really put pieces together and they have to say, okay, well, to say like, oh, it's only a few bean curd bits and wild vegetables, like it's not really that big a deal, shows how she feels about it. But that's like piecing a lot of things together as a 4th grader taking this test about this emperor named Zhao, who I can barely pronounce, right? Like, and so piecing that all together really can throw them from it. Here's another example where they have to click what are some ways they're alike and different, and so they just go through and they just have to click which ones apply. And then they go on to another type here. So then they move away from that passage. To give you an idea of another question type though, here they're given an audio passage. So
like a string of liquid pearls strung through noble counties, upland farms, and wooded valleys, 9 beautiful connected lakes run through Chain of Lakes State Park. This is Indiana's lake country and a small boater's paradise.
So they listen to that and then they have to answer, what claim does this make? What audio support is there to support that claim from part A? So if they got the claim wrong, then the support could be wrong. So that 2-part, going back and listening to it again, like there's not a passage for them to look at, so it's all just the listening comprehension. They have headphones that they wear, but they have to go back and listen to that again. If if you've been to Chain of Lakes, yeah, you have more background knowledge than someone who's like, I've never been to a lake, I don't know what you're talking about. That makes no sense to me at all. So there's that piece too, that background knowledge piece. So those are just some examples from English. Let me get out of English here and go to math. Before we go to math, this is just another piece that I wanted to show you. This is something in education, we call it the DOK levels. It's the depth of knowledge. There's 4 levels. The higher you go, the deeper thinking that it is. And so DOK level 4, you can think of like extended thinking. So that's where you're like applying your knowledge. It's that application level. You're maybe critiquing, you're analyzing, things like that. Where level 1 is just like recall. Okay, so you can also think of it like, if I say, what color is the sky? The sky is blue, because I can recall, I can point to it. It's an easy kind of question. It's something that I can point to and it's right there. I don't have to infer things. All of the questions from the released items, all except for 1, were levels 2 and 3. And so they're higher level depth of knowledge also that we're looking at. And then again, for the English part, some of the things we have to consider, what do students have to do to answer the question? Like what task are they being asked to do? Do they have to make an inference? Do they have to be able to support their claims? Do they have to be able to identify main ideas? Like what is it that they have to do? What kind of background knowledge do they need? Because some students come to us with more background knowledge and experiences and some come with less. So how can we build that background knowledge for students who don't have a lot of experiences? If you haven't ever been to a zoo, how are you going to know how to write a story about zoo animals? We have to build that background knowledge. Vocabulary, how do we get them to understand, like you might not be able to pronounce the emperor's name. Don't let that trip you up. You have to keep going. Just put a name in there. Like, how do we teach them that? So the names, the reading all the answer choices, selecting the best answer, all those test-taking strategies are things that we also have to focus on beyond the content. Scott, anything you want to add while I'm signing in here to fourth grade?
No, I just, again, the whole purpose of this exercise is just to kind of give you a sense of, you know, how rigorous these tasks are that kids are being asked to do. And so, you know, when we look at our plan on the page, we set our strategic goals, a lot of times what you'll see is we're setting for proficiency rates. Our goal will be at 60%. That's in the top 5% of the state of Indiana. And when you see kind of level of rigor that kids are being asked to do, these aren't like the ISTEP test or the California Achievement Test or whatever test we took back when we were kids. These are really rigorous items that kids are being asked to accomplish. And so some of the rhetoric you may hear around the state from time to time, you know, well, why are only 35–40% of the kids proficient in mathematics in the state of Indiana? Well, you're seeing, you know, what a fourth grader is expected to do on an English version, and pretty soon you're going to see what a fourth grader is expected to do on a math assessment. So this is some more rigorous stuff than what we were used to.
So again, with math now, switching gears, it's looking at the different question types that students have to know how to do. It's knowing how to manipulate the tools that are on here that they're going to be exposed to. So here they have to know, okay, line segment is shown. I have to know what perpendicular means. I have to know how to use the tool to actually be able to, I have to know how to do it too. Connect the line, or draw the points and connect the lines to make the perpendicular line. There are questions like this where you have some friends buy a cake, each friend eats this fraction, what fraction of the cake is left, and so they are adding and subtracting fractions, which of course can be challenging for students. But then it gets to questions like this. Select all the expressions that equal 1,680. So then they have to go through and they have to solve each one of these in order to know how many of those to select. So a lot of times they get to one that equals 1,680, they click on that one and they move on, and so then they're done, right? Because this takes a long time to answer all of those, and that's something that perseverance and that moving through all those is something that's a challenge.
So real life, she's just calculator.
Here's those story poems that we all love. So they introduced this in fourth grade. The bus left the bus station, traveled 20 minutes to the first stop, stayed for 2 minutes. Bus arrived at the second stop 16 minutes later at 9:19. At what time did the bus leave the station? So as they're figuring all of that out and trying to piece that together, then they also have to figure out how to put the time in here exactly right. And so that's another piece. This one is one that Scott and I had a nice debate about.
And I got it wrong.
So you have these two girls who eat two different size sandwiches, Kelly and Lucy, 1/8/2/4, 1/8/3/6. Kelly says that each girl ate the same amount of sandwich. Lucy disagrees, which statement is true, and then it goes on. So they're comparing 3/6 and 2/4, which one's greater, which one's smaller. They're different size sandwiches. They have to take all that into account when they're comparing, and they're trying to figure out if Lucy's right or if she's not right, if Kelly's right or if she's not right. And so it's trying to not just figure out like comparing the fractions, but then also applying that to this agreement or disagreement that the girls have, and so making sure you're applying that correctly and then clicking on the correct answer that you want to.
So what was your correct answer?
You can scroll down.
Oh.
They each have different size sandwiches.
And actually, this was not the one I got wrong. It was the next one I got wrong.
I think you had a few options for us to take a look at.
This is being live streamed. It's not-
We need to move on for sure. Okay, so select all the factors that 14 and 24 have in common. Again, that select all question. And then this is an example of one that is just challenging. We just have to get used to how to put it in. And so you have fractions, mixed numbers there, and so how many more miles did Tricia run yesterday than today? So when they solve it, they have to put in the whole number, then this fraction, and then they can put the numerator, oops, because I messed it up. And then they have to put in the denominator.
Do they do practice ones? think that-
That's what
So
the,
then
full-
they learn the different styles of putting them in.
that's part of the checkpoints,
Yeah.
that the kids take 3 times per year, so they get familiar
That's
with,
right.
with the tide system, but.
Yeah. And again, just how many total miles they walk, adding them up, adding those mix, and then putting in that fraction bar. So there's just a lot of different, some are just like those right there kind of questions, so what type of angle is this? So you have which type, it's right there, so that's the lower level of depth of knowledge, but then sometimes you have to analyze it too. I think there's another one like this one. Here you have the shape, what is the area and square feet of the shape, so then they have to know how to solve that when it's not an exact rectangle. Or here's that angle again, but now they have to select 2 objects that are represented in the figure. And so instead of just saying it's an obtuse angle, now they have to select 2 of the objects that are there. So a lot of different, again, different ways to put the information in, different question types. So for math, understanding the problem. So a lot of times math is comprehension. Academic vocabulary, so that math-specific vocabulary, like knowing what array is, knowing what obtuse angle is, things that they will only learn in math, that they have to know what that vocabulary is. Knowing what is being asked, if they're knowing what the difference is, or if they want to know if Lucy agrees, not just what the answer is. Solving those multi-step, solving multiple answers and selecting multiple answer choices, not just one and then moving on. Those calculations and entering the question in the correct format are all things that we're working on. So those are some I learned things. For iRead, just some updates. Nothing too big or too different this year compared to last. As you know, 2nd and 3rd graders are required to take iRead this year. Our challenge this year is that, like I said, with each student, there's a different rule that applies in that, like, if students were here prior to last year and they had a good cause exemption, then they don't have to retake the test, but if they were here last year in a good cause exemption, they do have to retake the test. If they were homeschooled before and then they moved in, it's another rule. So just trying to figure all of that out has been a challenge. There's mandatory retention for 3rd grade students who do not pass, limited good cause exemptions, and retesting goes until grade 7 now. And so that is new, and we have some students that will be getting up. I think we have 2 that are in 5th or 6th grade, I think, because of when they moved in.
What is the pass rate? I mean, not the pass rate. What do you have to achieve to be able to pass?
To pass iRead?
Yes.
It's a set score,
That's a skill
one,
score.
Mike, what do you know?
So it's not like 80%, 70%?
No, it's a scale score. It's a scale score, and then they have it listed as whether you're on track or approaching in 2nd grade and then passing or passing. So once when they're in 2nd grade, I'll put that on the next slide for that. Kind of. So we take it in the spring, and that's for every 2nd and every 3rd grader. So that will start March 2nd, so that's coming up next week. Every 2nd and every 3rd grader will take it then. And then I put an asterisk by this summer, because you can see that's a really big window. Our 2nd graders have the opportunity to take it twice, and that's it. And so they can take it in the spring, they have to take it in the spring, and then we get one more chance with them. So we can have them take it at the end of the school year. If we feel like they're really close to passing, we've done some intervention, we feel like they're gonna pass, we can have them take it at the end of the school year. Or they would attend summer school as 2nd graders, and we can have them take it at the end of summer school, but they can only take it twice. Our 3rd graders can take it 3 times. So we have them take it at the beginning of the testing window in the spring. If they don't pass, we have them take it at the end of the school year. And if they don't pass, we have them take it at the end of summer school. So we have 3 chances with them. So really, our 3rd graders will have had 5 chances, 2 in 2nd grade and 3 in 3rd grade. So we have opted into 2nd grade for a few years now, so that's not really new for us, other than it's required for the whole state now, so we just have more comparison points. This is the breakdown of iLearn, the checkpoint windows. So you can see for the most part, we opted to test our window at the end of the state window, just so we could make sure that we had time to teach some standards before we assessed. And so the first checkpoint went through November, second checkpoint, the beginning of February. The third checkpoint ends April 10th, and then the summative, the real iLearn, is April 13th. So we did bump this one up a little bit because we didn't want to go right into testing right after that one. So that is that. And I think that is it. Yep. Unless you want to do some more questions. Any questions?
Well, we just noted, Christina did, that the testing window opens right after our spring break, but do we
Yes.
push it back a little bit?
Yes, so the window I think is 3 weeks, so that means we only have 2. Yep. So usually we come back Monday and then we start like Tuesday, Wednesday because of that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that and no one wants to move spring break.
Right.
So our opportunity is to get that testing in after that.
It's just been the last 2 years, and last year we were doing this issue, this year we're doing this issue. It's just, spring break is really late
When
for
it
us.
falls, yeah.
Or the first full week falls, so.
Yeah.
But it should correct itself here in another year, so.
You probably know the exact number, John. What is the exact number for Irene? No?
I do not recall
That's the same number.
what it was. I'm sure I could look back and stuff.
All right.
Any other questions? Excellent. Well, again, we just want to give you an update of what our kids are doing and the phenomenal work that our teachers are providing. So it's tough, but our staff and our students are definitely up to the task. That is the last item we have for this evening.
All right, there being no further business coming to attention of the board, motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Motion for Christina, second from John. Any discussion? None? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
4:46.
Thank you.
Any time?